On this episode of Game Shack, I'm going to address the controversy surrounding Arcade1up's Legacy 2.0 line and their Pro line. A lot of anger coming out from customers who just bought products that were just made obsolete. I'm going to address that, and I'm going to give some suggestions to Arcade1up on how they should emulate a company in the pinball industry moving forward. All that and more coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome on back into the Game Shack. I am your host, JDV. Welcome into the second episode of 2022. Just did an episode on the announcements from iArcade and Arcade1up at CES. As I suspected, there's some hurt feelings out there and some anger based on most of the Arcade1up owners who maybe even just bought a legacy cab from, say, Walmart or Kohl's, only to find out yesterday that those cabs are completely obsolete now, as the new Legacy 2.0 cabs just look better in my opinion, but your mileage might vary on that. But they have Wi-Fi and that molded 3D coin door, which are two enormous things to anybody who just kind of wants to get into one machine for those particular game sets. Oh yeah, and you get two more games on those new Legacy cabs too. And so there's a lot of people who are kind of upset by that. Now, whether or not you agree with them, I guess is going to depend on kind of where you're at. I don't blame Arcade1up. I mean, you knew what you were getting when you bought those cabs if you did your research. But of course, a lot of people don't host their own arcade show on YouTube either. So if you're just sort of a casual buyer and you walked into Walmart, or you ordered something off of Walmart or Kohl's or one of those other websites, and maybe you even spent as much as $500 on, say, a legacy cab, to find out this week that that cab really is going to be not worth nearly as much as it was, and the resale market is upsetting. So I'm trying to get into real world pinball right now. Actually, for about the last month, I've been looking for an affordable machine. As anybody who's already been established in pinball can tell you, an affordable machine and pinball really don't go together too well. The prices have absolutely skyrocketed in terms of real pinball. Heck, even virtual pinball games have gone up in value. So it's kind of been a long road. But one of the things that I have learned in the process as I'm trying to learn all the different varieties of pinball games, what something really should be worth and what it's worth now, and you know, everything in between. Well, I've learned that Stern Pinball, A, is still making new pinball games. B, they're making really, really sweet pinball games. And they do something really, really smart. And I don't think they're the only pinball company doing this, but they are the biggest pinball company going. And what they do is they essentially offer 3 models of pins, sometimes even 4 models of pinball. And you start off with the Pro line, got the premium line, and then you get the limited edition line. Each one of those lineups gets more expensive as you go, and for some of them, like Jurassic Park and Star Wars, you can actually get a home version of it, which is like a little step below the Pro line, and that's actually what I'm looking at buying, just because that's what I kind of can afford. Anyway, at each one of those price brackets, you have more toys, more gizmos, more lights. Like in the Star Wars home version of the game, when you blow up the Death Star, it just flashes green. That's it. But I think in the Pro version, the Death Star actually splits open. And it kind of goes up. As you go up in the premium to limited edition pricing, the game does more, offers more, and generally speaking, will be just a little bit better built. Pinball has been around for, well, geez, since the 40s, really, 50s. You can buy machines from the 50s right now that still work. So it is an industry that has been around for a long time and has legions of fans. If you contrast that in the 3/4 scale arcade world, it's only been around for what, 4 years, 5 years tops. And so a lot of the stuff is new ground. And so I do think you have to give companies like AtGames, iArcade, and Arcade1up a little bit of slack when they put out duds. Like, look, the Pac-Man Babycade. That's a dud, right? That's dumb. The first design of the iArcade. I mean, clearly that thing needed a kick in the butt and another design. I mean, there are things that aren't going to work, but if the effort is there and people are trying hard, you can kind of forgive the missteps. What Arcade1up can do now that it is mature enough, now that it is putting out dozen new cabinets a year, something like that. I mean, they're putting out a huge number of cabinets. I mean, when you talk about the ALU and the iArcade, the reality is those companies only put out 1 or 2 versions of that cab. That's it. So as long as they can fine tune that one cab and get it working really, really well, they're doing what their business should do. Arcade1up's in a lot bigger, different boat, and they have to make each one of those cabs work within itself, and each one of those cabs is going to have its own segment of fans who has high expectations and high demands. So just like Stern does with their pinball games, maybe Arcade1up can do the same for their arcade machines. So at the bottom rung, you start off with the legacy cabs that should go for $450. Then maybe a step up from that is something like Big Blue in Tron. You call that maybe your premium lineup, so you get the extra 5-6 inch riser, you maybe get some UV lights, some other lights that maybe you wouldn't get on the other cab. Maybe the coin doors are lit up where they're not in the legacy version, just enough to differentiate itself from the legacy version. And then above the premium line, you would have the Pro line, something that is much more closely related to an actual arcade machine. So if you could put a real working coin door on there, you would have a legitimate machine that you could put in your bar or convenience store. I do think that Arcade1up really should look at that business model from Stern, where they, tell everybody right off the bat, this is what's gonna be happening. Everybody knows now, if you want a Stern pinball game new, you can buy the Pro, you can buy the Premium, and you can buy the limited edition, and each one of those is gonna get more expensive. On some really popular models like Star Wars and Jurassic Park, there's probably gonna be a home version that's available for a little bit less and has just a little bit bells and whistles. Right from the start, if you buy a Stern pinball game, you know there's a Pro, you know there's a Premium, and you know there's the most expensive limited edition model, and each one of those segments will have more bells and whistles, but also there's going to be fewer and fewer, depending on what market segment you're in, made. If you get a home edition of Star Wars, they're going to make buttload of those. They're not going to make very many at all limited edition. And that could be something that Arcade1up really takes a strong look at, and I hope they start to adopt that. And indeed, I hope all the companies aren't just transparent, but also build in the collectability aspect, the resellability aspect of it, because if you're going to, at a certain point, no matter who you are, you're going to want to swap machines, even if it's just to kind of put 2 into 1, so to speak. And a lot of that went on during 2021, or just something a whole lot better came in and you only have so much room. I think if Arcade1up and the rest of the companies ignore the collectible part of the market, the hobbyists who might need to sell a cab to stay in the hobby, I think they'd be doing themselves a disservice. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Arcade1up did people wrong by announcing these machines, or is it, no, it's just par for course and you should have known it was coming, or something in the middle? Please let me know down below. I love reading the comments from you guys. You are so freaking smart, usually smarter than I am, and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up on the way out the door. It really does help the channel. Subscribe if you haven't. Love each other, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the Game Shack. Mwah!
Be sure to visit EvilGeniusEntertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.